Memoirs of Captain Ward McDonald, Jr., CSA. I was attending Southern Illinois College when the strife began, and that section was about equally divided upon the question of difference between the North and the South. I was asked which side I would take. Would I become a rebel or a patriot? My reply was that my interests, my friends, and relatives were all in the South, or nearly so. Could I be expected to take up arms and aid in slaying them and taking away their property? If this was constituted patriotism, I was not the material that patriots were made of. I was therefore known as a pronounced Southern sympathizer, or rather a rebel, and my name went down on the list to be arrested by the federal authorities, the Patriots. I was informed of this by a man I had not considered my friend, and who belonged to the federal cavalry. The next day after learning this, I was determined to make my way out alone. I had been expecting to go with a company up at Marion, Illinois in Williamson County, near where I lived at my older brother's home. Marion was the county seat of Williamson County and the home of John A. Logan. He was then a member of Congress and strongly Southern in sentiments. It was said that he was making a regiment for the Southern Army. At any rate, the company had been made and started out, but was overtaken before getting to the Ohio River and scattered. A few were captured, a few returned, but the bulk of them crossed the river and formed a camp on the Kentucky side, where recruits from the Southern Illinois were being received to a number of companies. Having failed to get off with the first company, I was preparing to go with the second when I got news of the difficulties of the first and the intention to arrest me, and I was determined, as before stated, to make my way out alone. Early in the morning, I mounted my solid gray pony and started. I was afraid to travel the big road until I got beyond the bounds of my acquaintance, so I took the bypaths and country road till far on the way. I met with no obstruction, and on the second day was within 2 miles of Shawneetown at 11 o'clock. I here met a man on horseback. I inquired of him about the crossing of the river. Shawneetown, Illinois is 40 miles east of Marion near the Ohio River. Why, young man, you can't cross the river. The ferry is guarded, and it's Sunday besides. This thunderstruck me. I had not thought about his being Sunday, though I expected the ferry to be guarded, but thought I could pass the guards on the statement that I was going to Kentucky. Now that the ferry was not running, and I would be detained, there was a nut to crack. Whether to go up or down the river to another ferry, or stay there and risk arrest. I had as yet seen no service and had no arms, but I was an embryo soldier just starting out to take risks, so I concluded to risk arrest by remaining till morning. The man whom I met stood glaring at me through his shaggy eyebrows and must have seen my confusion. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I am going home to Kentucky," I replied. "Where have you been?" he asked. "Up the country a piece," I said. "The cavalry rousted you?" he asked with a smile. "I haven't seen any cavalry," I said. "I reckon you don't want to see any," he said laughingly. "They have no reason to molest me," I replied and rode on. The condition of things just now was as momentous to me as were many of those in after service that surrounded me with great peril and responsibility. I was taking my first lesson in soldier experience, and it was as hard for me as any that followed, although 100th part of the danger was not involved. The thought struck me that the guard would be off duty, it being Sunday, and I might have a chance to get over the river. So I rode on down, and upon inquiry, I found the guard at church and not on duty, as I conjectured. I went down the hill, below the church to the river, and alighted at the ferry landing, where the guard stood when on duty. I surveyed the surroundings, and I never saw a person nor heard a sound. In about 10 minutes a man walked leisurely down from the house, 50 yards away, to within a short distance the boat, and stopped. I could see that he was smoking and had a paper in his hand. When he stopped I waved my coat at him. I had evidently caught his attention, and after a short pause he went down into the boat. There was some comfort in this, But would he go down there and read himself to sleep? That was what I was most concerned with now, and I watched the boat with undivided interest and great anxiety. It seemed long before my suspense ended, but a little puff of smoke that shot out of the chimney gave me great relief. He was not long in getting up steam, and she steamed over to the landing. I still paid much attention to the direction of the church where the guards were. It would be too bad to be detained and finally arrested now, after have such an opportunity of getting over. The ferryman asked me if I wanted to cross. I told him I did, and with such anxiety in word and action that he at once discovered it, and, being a Southern sympathizer, told me to come on board quickly, which I did. We were halfway across the river in 3 minutes, and before reaching the Kentucky shore, we saw the guards, in a somewhat hurried manner, coming down the hill from the church. "Ah," said the ferryman, "a little too late." He said that they arrested a good many there, and when he saw me with my coat to a pole, he took in the whole situation and determined to get me across if possible. I gave him many thanks for doing so, and when he told that he charged me nothing, I again heartily thanked him, and after shaking hands with him, rowed off the boat onto the old Kentucky shore. I felt safe once more, and could not suppress whoop.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Yay!